On the 19th of November 2014, Boston Red here, the national leader, Dr. Sharpton, held about a 30-minute news conference at the National Action Center in New York, addressing a New York Times article about his taxes and taxes that he owed and the National Action Network. Some of those taxes involved liens, which is very common with the IRS. And liens, of course, under their penalties. Now, the penalties continue to go up. We'll get to that, and as we leave here, you will hear his news conference. But first, let's just start with a little side story here that has nothing to do with Dr. Sharpton, but everything to do with the media. The latest chapter in the Bill Cosby show, NBC and prior to that Netflix have backed out of projects with Mr. Cosby. And this is all around some allegations that were made decades ago in the 80s by several women that they were drugged and had sex with Mr. Cosby. Now, the problem here is quite obvious. These come from the 80s, 30 years ago or more, and there would not be any forensic evidence. None of the women filed criminal charges as far as I know. I think there was a criminal investigation in one of these. There's several of them out there. One lady did lodge a civil suit, and it was settled, and you can go to Bill Cosby's site to find out what happened as satisfactorily settled. But these allegations have cropped up here, and they are allegations. I can recall a time that they had date rape drugs out there. You saw more in the media than you do today. The Netflix was for his 77th birthday, and basically what it read, at this time we are postponing the launch of a new stand-up comedy special, Bill at 77. Now, Bill Cosby is still out on the circuits, and this former model, Janice Dickerson, the fifth woman to come forward on the record accusations. And again, these since are in the 80s there, the only thing Mr. Cosby's lawyer could say is a blanket denial of all the accusations. But the problem here is they say, he say, and you don't have a situation out there that you can deal with. Dickerson evidently appeared, she's 59 years old, on Entertainment Tonight. Said Cosby took her to Lake Tahoe where he drugged and, according to her, raped her. Martin Singer, a prominent entertainment lawyer in Los Angeles, labeled her account as Dickerson's an outrageous and inflammatory lie in a letter he sent to Entertainment Tonight's trade news site, The Rep. Notably, a later comment on the original blanket denial, another Cosby lawyer, this is John P. Smith, specifically excluding one case Cosby had settled with a woman named Andrea Comstan. Mr. Smith made a joint statement with Ms. Comstan's lawyer, which reads, the settlement released by Mr. Cosby's attorney over the weekend was not intended to refer in any way to Andrea Comstan. As previously reported, differences between Mr. Cosby and Ms. Comstan were resolved to mutual satisfaction many years ago. Years ago there, the Cosby legal team has also not explained this characterization of other accusations as discredited. So this is an ongoing story here that is not a story from many years ago. Let's go now to the case of Dr. Sharpton. Let me just start this out with the somewhere here we did see it. The original story here. This is the follow-up story, but we wanted to get the original story. Here we go. Oops, wrong story. This is what happens when you're doing a broadcast in a semi-live position. We'll get the right story up here in a minute. Let's see. Okay, here we go. This was dated the 18th of November. You can find it on our Facebook and Twitter feeds, and I'll just read it. The Rev Dr Sharpton, who came to prominence as an imposing figure in a track shoot, shouting shouting at the powerful, stood quietly on the stage last month at the Four Seasons restaurant. His now slender figure wrapped in a finely tailored suit. Well, we'll skip all that. The mayor was there, de Blasio, the governor was there, and of course Dr. Sharpton was there, dedicated to the righteous cause of perfecting our union. Major corporations sponsored the lavish affair billed as a party for a cause, and it was on his 60th birthday, and of course we congratulated Dr. Sharpton on his birthday. I've been able to reach from the streets to the suites, he said, that night. Indeed, Dr. Sharpton's influence and visibility has reached new heights this year, fueled by his close relationship with the mayor and, of course, President Obama. Obscured in this ascent, however, has been a troubling financial past, which continues to shadow to the present. Dr. Sharpton has sidestepped the sorts of obligations most people, and this is an editorial thing, like taxes, rent, and other records here. This is where they talk about the $4.5 million in current state and federal tax liens. Now, the situation with federal and tax liens, Dr. Sharpton in his news conference today talked about the settlement process they have set into. The lien will remain there until the judgment is satisfied. Now, they are negotiating on the penalty. And having experienced these types of situations myself, and having represented people as an enrolled agent, we were not, when we were in the law business, we were not in tax law. But anyway, after that, in the early 90s, we were. This is a pretty standard procedure, people having liens and satisfying liens through payment plans. And once the payment plan is completed, as Dr. Sharpton said today, those will go away. But the 100% liens and those sorts of things have to be negotiated down. And this article is just a general situation. He gave out the 990 statements today out there, and they just mentioned these various cases he's on. Eric Gardner, the man that was killed on Staten Island, and of course the murder of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. And in our from our perspective, we see this as a situation that has occurred because of the activism of the National Action Network and the national leader, Dr. Sharpton. Not unusual at all. They attacked the president. And they even bring in Rachel Nordinger. Now, Rachel Nordinger, as a woman raised out west, she was the PR person there, and she had went to work in the de Blasio administration. And Dr. Sharpton even alludes to people had said at one time her son was actually fathered by Dr. Sharpton, which turned out not to be true at all. The son had a little bit of a problem here, and she had a live-in boyfriend with a criminal record, evidently, and she was an assistant to the mayor's wife, Mayor de Blasio. And they're going on. This is the first article, and we'll get to the second one of there. And they bring back in Tawana Brawley. Well, the situation there was a totally different situation. Upstate New York, it was a case that had occurred out there, but in the matter, Antone Mason and several others were involved there. They had brought the case there against a number of these people, and they were later sued for defamation, and the jury upheld that, and Dr. Sharpton and some others paid for that situation. And also today came up the felony charges that he stole $250,000. This is Dr. Sharpton from a youth group. Was dismissed. And a technical thing in the tax law business, the misdemeanor of not filing a state income tax return. And this lost defamation suit, we covered that, and it's been covered there. Now, when they say he testified on the oath about his finances, this is a bit misleading in that it was on the oath. It was what we call a deposition. And in the deposition, he explained that, and you'll hear that in a minute, his answer to that. Now, he had several for-profit businesses there, arranged there, and that have some tax problems also, but that's not really unusual. And they even bring in the rent that he paid, etc., there, and the tuition paid in the 90s for his daughters, which they were not paid. And this was out of the deposition there. Now, the co-defendant there, this is Anton Maddox. I said Mason Maddox, a lawyer who was suspended. Now, he was suspended, but Attorney Maddox is now back pressing law. There's no problem there. There were some hard feelings, but there are usually hard feelings there. So the rest of the Times article is just a resume of other kinds of things. They talk about the public records, and the revenue was over $1 million in National Action Network, and the way that they do things. And in that type of organization, as he said, Mr. Brown was murdered in Missouri. Of course, they had to move people and things, and those kinds of things have to be done immediately. It's not within their budget. So either they have to have special fundraisers, or they have to have other kinds of things. Now, as far as unpaid office rent, we don't know. They don't specify this was his presidential campaign. Well, the last I looked, Hillary Clinton still owes money for her 2008 defeated campaign. So thus they talk about his radio contract. He lent the organization some money. He addresses that because the organization was broke. And as far as in 2009, this is when they entered into the payment plan. The organization still owed $1.1 million. And Dr. Sharpton began collecting his salary, but you have to understand, he'd already lent the organization the salary, quote-unquote, he was collecting from. So all this article is very, very misleading here about this, and as far as where he lived and where he didn't live, that doesn't matter right there. But his personal taxes, obviously, as a matter of law, are not open to the public. The NAM tax statements in the 990 are open to the public. Now, listen to the headline here. It says, Al Sharpton criticizes New York Times report on unpaid taxes. Now, the Times covered the news conference, and you'll hear it here, and then they go back to talk about what Dr. Sharpton said and try to refute it. What he said was the $4.5 million is included in the lien. They have been in negotiations there, and of course been paying it down. And he was talking about old taxes there, made a statement there. And the Times goes on to editorialize. He says the accuracy of Mr. Sharpton's assertions that the amount he owes the federal government is much lower than $3.6 million shown in the record could not be verified. Well, the problem there, they will not get a verification until the next 990 comes out. So that we know, they are prohibited, and the Times knows this, from divulging information about individual taxpayers. The IRS cannot do that. Now, the state tax liens, these are past years. It's sort of like Bill Cosby's situation, 2008, 2009, 2010, against for-profit businesses he controlled. Totaling $695,000. And now a lot of this is included penalty and interest. Now, he did not go into that today. But again, that would be information